Hey, what's up, guys? Bajheera here, as promised. Wanted to make an 8.0 Arms Warrior talent overview guide discussion video for you guys as well. Since I had a lot of fun with the Fury one, and of course, I got your back, man. I'm ready. The BFA pre-patch is live. It's been a lot of fun so far. And even though I have a lot more testing to do, as I'm sure you guys do as well, definitely wanted to make a video talking to you guys about the different talent options for PvP and PvE that you have as ARMS, and break those down and let you understand maybe a few of the builds that you might want to try, how they synergize together. But all in all, just take a look, because a couple things have changed for ARMS and BFA. Now, I have made some BFA update videos in general, in case you're wondering, you know, about some of the main changes. I've made those for Fury and ARMS. This is going to be primarily focused on the talents, so we can go over that kind of stuff in the future, or you guys can definitely just swing by some of the beta videos that I've posted as well, because not much has changed from the beta to the pre-patch, from the most recent build of the beta at least. But here we go. Let's take a look at these talents for ARMS, right? So we've got War Machine, which is very similar to that of Fury, that your auto attacks generate extra rage, and you get a little bit extra movement speed if something dies. Once again, not a bad choice for ARMS. Extra rage is always good, especially because ARMS is a little bit more rage hungry than a Fury, right? Fury has a lot of rage generation, and then you primarily spend rage through Rampage, whereas ARMS, all your abilities basically cost rage. So not a bad idea. However, I must say that sudden death for ARMS does feel really, really nice. Execute still is not really dealing as much damage as I would like to see, but maybe I would always like to go back to the good old WAD execute, but maybe I'm just a little bit spoiled by that. But either way, sudden death is really nice for ARMS warriors, because I do feel like you don't have quite as good mobility as an ARMS warrior. You're a little bit more waddly, but you definitely pack a punch when you get there. And sudden death is one of those things that you can use to maintain a little bit higher uptime. Another thing that's kind of interesting, though, is that Skull Splitter is a brand new ability on a 16-second cooldown, which is affected by haste, where you do a pretty decent amount of damage, but also generate 20 rage. So I've done some builds with Skull Splitter on beta, and I was actually kind of enjoying it. So even though I tend to not really include this in my mental list of talents that I want, it might be something that's worth testing, and I'm probably going to play it more, especially if you're playing a rage hungry build. Maybe something with Rend might be kind of nice to have Skull Splitter in there. But we'll go ahead and just keep going down the list and talking about what I like for now. And I think Sudden Death's probably my favorite out of all of these, but Skull Splitter's still pretty good. If used well, then War Machine is just kind of a very basic standard talent choice. This might be fun to use in, for leveling or BGs if you want that little bit of movement speed boost. I definitely think War Machine is great in BGs. Like I said in the Fury video, if anything dies around you in a battleground, you get War Machine. Even if pets and little imps or something dies around you, you get to run a little faster. That's definitely helpful for an ARMS warrior, because like I said, they're a little bit more waddly. But also, another way to increase your mobility is double time, obviously. That's another really fun talent for BGs. If you want to be able to charge around a little bit more often, catch your opponents, double time is pretty nice. Impending Victory is another thing that it is a choice for ARMS. There is a really interesting build that was on the beta where you have an Azeroth talent called Bury the Hatchet, which gives you a shield whenever you press a Victory Rush. That also works with Impending Victory, so even though that's not a thing now, that is something to keep an eye on for later. That ARMS does have some self-healing right now, built into Impending Victory, but you do have to lose double time and Stormbolt for that. So ARMS, once again, deals more in kind of damage reduction through defensive stance and healing reduction through Mortal Strikes and Sharpened Blades, so it doesn't necessarily have quite as much healing as Fury does, but this is an option if you want to take that. But I still think that Stormbolt's really, really nice for ARMS, where, like I said, there's two ways to solve the mobility problem, is to you become more mobile or you immobilize your opponent. And I think Stormbolt is one of those things that works really well for ARMS warriors, where it's going to take you a while to catch your opponent sometimes, but when you do catch them, you can hit them really, really hard. And making sure that you have at least a couple seconds of uptime to get your hamstring up, your Mortal Strike up, is nice. And Stormbolt allows you to also pair your damage well with your teammates to set up some pretty nasty damage. So Stormbolt's a pretty standard choice here. That would be my number one. But these two do have their, their utility when necessary. Now, this talent tier is another fun one. We've seen Ren before. It doesn't really seem like it's dealing that much damage right now, and it has a big rage cost. So I'm kind of on the fence about Rend. What's neat about Rend in the new sweeping strikes is you can apply 2 Rends at once. If there's 2 people nearby, you can just press sweeping strikes and then Rend, which is an option. It's kind of neat. But I don't think it's dealing quite enough damage to be fully useful right now. But I have not tested Rend very much. Admittedly, I think I need to test it more in BGs and Arena, but right now it's not really a shining choice for me. Fervor of Battle, once again, Whirlwind deals 10% increased damage and slams your primary target. Now, this is a talent that I think is actually pretty neat, in the fact that you are dealing really good single target damage, right? The fact that Whirlwind is dealing damage, and then you slam right after as well, so you're getting Whirlwind and Slam together, if I'm understanding this correctly, and I believe that's what I've found out by testing this on beta at least. So that's a really nice way to deal some pretty serious damage without really affecting your, hey, video's done, Fury video's done, great, without affecting your rage, you know, right, because you're not really spending any more extra rage. Instead of, you're just pressing Whirlwind, which costs a little bit more rage than Slam, but you're getting both for the price of one, if I understand correctly. So that's a pretty serious deal right there. And very, very nice if you're trying to do a little bit of cleave damage while still doing good single target damage. So this is a really interesting talent that I need to try out, especially in BGs. But it is so hard to pass up 35% health execute as an arms warrior, especially when you're pairing it with something like Death Sentence, right? That helps you with your mobility issues. It helps you deal a lot of damage, helps you do what arms warriors do well, which is finish off opponents. Really hard to turn down that talent right there. At Massacre, like I said in the Fury video, definitely I feel like arms makes better use of this because of the fact that, you know, you don't have a cooldown execute. You're doing what you got to do to finish off that opponent. And this is a talent that works really, really well with Deadly Calm as well. If you get an opponent in a very dangerous spot, and you're finding that, you know, you don't even need to be low on rage necessarily, but you can pop Deadly Calm when something is in execute range, and you're going to be able to spam execute to not only deal a lot of damage and attempt to finish off your opponent, but you're also going to have, you know, unlimited uptime on them, essentially, right? Unless they can get far enough away from you that they're out of Death Sentence range, but that's a pretty big deal right there. Massacre plus Deadly Calm is really, really nice. You'll see I'm still going Avatar just for fun, but we can talk about that in a bit. There's like your defensive / utility talent tier. Second Wind I find is really mostly only useful with leveling. It could be a kind of a cool way to get a lot of health back when dueling, but it's kind of risky, right? But it can be fun while leveling. You know, you have Second Wind, so you recover basically full HP between every mob, but you're also going to be getting a lot of healing from Victory Rush and stuff. And how cool is that Fury got back Victory Rush, by the way? I'm so excited about that. There's a lot of little neat changes like that I'm fired up about for BFA. But Bounding Stride, same discussion as Fury. It's can be useful. I wouldn't say it's like your best choice. I don't know if Fury increases your movement speed by 70%, though. Maybe I'm just making that up, but maybe they actually gave more of a movement speed for arms. I'm not sure about that one. Maybe I think I'm just making that up. But the reason why I'm making it up is because I really don't ever swap out a defensive stance in terms of the talent tier. I don't think that they changed D-Stance to make you deal 10% reduced damage anymore, I don't think. I'm pretty sure that it's a situation where it's still 20% damage reduction for the damage you deal and the damage you take in PvP, I think. But hopefully it's changed. It would be nice if it was only 10%, but back in Legion they made it so it was a 20% for both reduction and the damage reduction that you deal and the damage reduction that you take. So, but either way, it's still nearly an essential talent, right? It's too good to be able to swap into D-Stance if you're taking damage and just tank it out while your healer recovers or whatever else. So, really, really solid choice. I would highly recommend this one. Everything else you can kind of play around, but the talents that I'm taking right now are also the talents that I've used in Arena so far and had fun with, so keep that in mind as well. Collateral damage. When your abilities deal damage to a second target using sweeping strikes, they refund 20% of the rage cost. That's kind of cool, especially for, you know, maintaining some rage if you're in like a Mythic Plus or something like that. Cleave is another really, really solid, like probably even like one of the best Mythic Plus talents from what I understand, is keeping your deep wounds and everything. And deep wounds is now your mastery. It applies a bleed based on your mastery, which is really kind of neat. I think I like the bleed style of warrior. I don't mind that. Muscle and metal, and, you know, cutting your opponent's hamstrings to slow them down, you know, doing a mortal strike that really makes it hard to heal through, and, you know, causing them to bleed as what you do. I mean, that's what I like about warrior. So all that physical damage. So, and also bleeds do go through armor, so that's kind of cool for us too. Dealing more damage to armored targets is really good, being the alpha armor class, right? You know, the alpha plate class, even though I guess Rep Paladins and DKs probably don't really care about armor with their magical damage, but regardless, I still consider warrior to be the the coolest class anyway. But I do like Warbreaker quite a bit. So you'll see that I don't have Colossus Smash on my bar because rotationally, Overpower has replaced Colossus Smash. Essentially makes your Mortal Strike do more damage if you didn't know. And Colossus Smash has become our offensive cooldown on a 45-second cooldown. But if you take Warbreaker, that'll make Colossus Smash, which is usually a single target ability, into an AoE ability, which I like a lot because, you know, Warbreaker into Blade Storm is a ton of damage. Really, really fun, and I just like Warbreaker. But I think that Cleave would be a fine option for PvE. Collateral damage could be kind of fun if you're oftentimes hitting multiple targets, like if you're, you know, fighting something where there's always going to be a pet near you. But I think Warbreaker is just a really solid choice. Just makes your offensive quota even more powerful. But Cleave could be fun. But you have to hit 3 more targets to actually inflict the deep wounds, so that's another thing to keep in mind. So Warbreaker is kind of just like an easy to use, always helpful talent. Doesn't have a lot of drawbacks, I don't think. This talent tier, Warbreaker, which is also Colossus Smash, increase your haste by 10% or by 20% if any target is below 20% health, which is kind of interesting, the any target thing. If any target is below 20% health, so I guess even if a pet in Arena is below 20% health, you could use In for the Kill, and Colossus Smash would maybe make you still have 20% haste instead of 10. It only lasts 10 seconds though, so I'm not sure I like that as much, but it could be useful. It could be cool. Avatar is back, 1.5 minute cooldown. Transforms you into a big old Colossus, dealing extra damage, removing all roots and snares for that, you know, when you use the ability. It's still a 20-second cooldown, dealing 20% extra damage. I mean, that's pretty nice, and it generates rage on a 1.5 minute cooldown. Not a bad ability, man. Deadly Calm is... The advantage of this is Deadly Calm is off the global cooldown, I believe, now. And I told you how it could have some utility with Execute, right? Where you pop Execute, or sorry, you pop Deadly Calm and then just spam Execute on somebody. That could be pretty cool. I think Avatar has its usefulness pretty much all the time. And I don't find I have too much trouble generating rage. So Deadly Calm becomes less of an appetizing option. And Avatar just looks really nice. You get to get all swolled up and deal a lot of damage. Nothing, you know, nothing like that. I like this talent a lot. But we'll see how it goes. Another talent to consider down here is Anger Management. Now that you no longer have Opportunity Strikes, Anger Management is always like my second favorite talent choice. It was always kind of fun to use. I like that idea of, you know, the more rage that you can generate, the more rage that you can spend, the more that you can use your cooldowns and do a lot of damage. And I like this, especially because it not only affects Warbreaker, it also affects Blade Storm. So you're already reducing the cooldown of Blade Storm a fair amount if you decide to use the Storm of Destruction talent, and then you're going to be able to do that whole Warbreaker into Blade Storm combo more often with this one. So I like that a lot. Probably my favorite talent. Dreadnought, if you like the Overpower play, you can take Dreadnought. Overpower now has 2 charges. It doesn't really deal like a ton of damage, but it can't be blocked or parried, which is kind of nice. You can go through Rogue Evasion, you can go through Warrior Parry with it. But I don't think you're really going to be able to really be killing anybody with it, but it's still kind of cool. But it also stacks up, you know, to 2 times, right? So if you want to get those 2 stacks instantly, then you can stack it with the Dreadnought and make your next Mortal Strike deal 60% increased damage. Just charge in Hamstring, Overpower, Sharpen Blade, and then Mortal Strike, and it would be a pretty big Mortal Strike hit. So definitely something to consider. I'm not writing Dreadnought off by any means, but it's definitely not my favorite talent choice, but I think it could be fun, and I'll probably test it out for some massive Mortal Strike hits. It'd be a lot of fun. Well, I mean, obviously, if you're going with the most massive, you're going to be going with like an Avatar, Warbreaker, to set that up, obviously, but that you get the idea. The different things that buff Mortal Strike directly, as well as other damage stacking things, could lead to some serious damage. It would take a lot of globals to do it. I think that Arms, I definitely noticed the global cooldown thing more as Arms than Fury, but hey, I guess Arms is a slower hitting, or slower moving, kind of slower hitting, heavier hitting class, so. But if you're willing to do all that setup, it could be pretty fun. So we'll be testing that kind of stuff out more in BGs and Arena as we go. But anyway, that's Dreadnought, pretty cool. And Ravager, if you guys like Ravager, it's back. it's kind of the same idea. You chuck your weapon, it deals damage in a certain area, generates rage. Not my favorite talent, but it does have its usefulness, especially if you want to play something like Ursula's Vortex with a Druid. You can keep people in your Ravager and actually make it useful. It can be pretty effective, especially when you're considering that its cooldown is also reduced by Anger Management and Storm of Destruction, so it becomes like you can throw a Ravager on the ground maybe like every 30-something seconds, which is kind of wild when you think about it. You can Stormbolt Ravager. I mean, that's a thing. I mean, if you get your cooldown low enough, nearly every Stormbolt you'll have a Ravager available. So that is where that could become effective, right? That's going to force some cooldowns, and I bet I'll be testing this out. It won't be Anger Management though, obviously, because you can't take both. I'm probably just being stupid thinking like that. I always like to imagine I can take Ravager and anger management, but you can't. So regardless, even if it's just a 40-second cooldown, you know, if you're willing to wait for your Stormbolt to make it a 40-second cooldown, you can basically Ravage every Stormbolt anyway. But you get the idea there. It could be pretty fun, and I might test that actually. It could be cool for like some setup burst comps. Maybe even for like Turbo, you could just Ravager. That'd be pretty neat. But to go into PvP talents, I didn't really talk about the Trinket at all on my Fury video. I mean, I'm pretty much just taking the good old Medallion. Pretty solid choice. I think Death Sentence for arms becomes much more important. With the way that you're using Massacre and Sudden Death, I think that the mobility that you get from Death Sentence is pretty much essential. And you'll see that I'm only using, once again, I'm just using these offensive talents. I don't love the Shadow of the Colossus, but I think if you're going to try to use Dreadnought, maybe that would be kind of fun. Just to have like a million overpowers all the time and really just force a ton of pressure with some huge Mortal Strike hits constantly. You do have Warbanner and Duel, which are kind of neat defensive. Spell Reflect obviously is once again a PvP talent instead of baseline. I would love to see this baseline, but it's all good. Disarm, same thing. You have some defensive talents here, but for me, I'm just playing offense. So I'm going Storm of Destruction, making it so that Blade Storm's cooldown is reduced and it applies mortal wounds, which also is still applying deep wounds, so makes Blade Storm really effective and be able to use more often. And you have anger management, which makes it an even shorter cooldown, so that's really sweet. And then of course Sharpened Blade is like very short cooldown, massively increased Mortal Strike effect as well as increased Mortal Strike damage. It's really hard to pass that up. So these are my favorite talents by far, these three right here. But there's definitely some defensive utility if you know that's what the arena game requires. You got a Warbanner, Duel, Disarm, and just be a complete, you know, peel bot. I mean, hey, that Arms Warrior can do that. You know, if you got to really grind these games out and dampen them out, sometimes you got to keep your teammates alive, and that's what you got to do. But for me right now, I'm just trying to do some damage. So I got these three talents. I love them. That's what I'd recommend. But all in all, guys, I think Arms Warrior is definitely in a powerful spot. I discussed this just a little bit at the end of the Fury video, but we can get into it right now as well. I think Arms is definitely the choice for competitive PvP. I think it has been for a long time. The fact that you have D-Stance to reduce the damage that you take, as well as the Mortal Strike effect, that will, you know, really put teams under pressure as the game goes on, and then it's stacking that with Sharpened Blade. And just the way that you deal damage is going to be very consistent, but also, you know, compounded by some chunks with Warbreaker and Blade Storm and Sharpened to add extra pressure, especially if you're going anger management. You're going to be dealing that damage. Even, you know, kind of as the match goes on, things ramp up, you're generating more rage. It's going to be a really scary situation. It puts your opponents on a timer. And it's a situation where you might not be able to have maximum uptime always, but when you make it to your opponent, it's going to sting. So I still think Arms is probably going to be a more reliable choice for competitive PvP than Fury. But and I think it'll probably be decent in PvE as well. But obviously, I'm mostly a PvP focused kind of guy, so that's my main thought here. But yeah, I think Arms is gonna be great. I think Fury is really good. I've enjoyed them both so far, and I think they're both gonna be effective and fun classes to play as we move on into BFA, especially because with Azeroth talents probably change things. That's gonna be a big discussion as well. I do like to make these long videos talking about different stuff. I don't mean for them to be long, but you know, talking about Warrior is something I enjoy doing, so we get into it a little bit. But either way, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any other additional questions, by all means, feel free to drop them in the comment section. Be sure to give the video a big thumbs up if you liked it, and be sure to come tune into the streams. We're usually, I think I mentioned this on the Fury video as well. I'm making these back to back if you couldn't tell, but we've got the gaming stream on usually between noon, starting between noon and 1 p.m. PST, going to somewhere between 5 and 6 p.m. PST, and that would be taking place in the middle. Or I guess between my two workout streams as well. So we're on the stream all day if you guys enjoy hanging out. Definitely love to have you on the stream. But to wrap things up, thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. We'll keep kicking butt, having fun in the pre-patch. We'll see you guys both on stream in the videos. And either way, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, dudes. Peace.